Welcome to Smart in the City, the Babel podcast where we bring together top actors in the smart city arena, sparking dialogues and interactions around the stakeholders and themes most prevalent for today's citizens and tomorrow's generations. I am your host, Tamlin Shimizu, and I hope you will enjoy this episode and gain knowledge and connections to accelerate the change for a better urban life. Smart in the City is brought to you by Babel Smart Cities. We enable processes from research and strategy development to co-creation and implementation. To learn more about us, please visit the Babel platform at babel-smartcities.eu. So welcome back to another episode of the Smart in the City podcast. We have quite an episode lined up for you today. I am sitting in Stuttgart, Germany, which also happens to be the headquarters of Smart Cities. And we are live at the Urban Future Conference. We're a proud media partner. And if you missed it this year, definitely make sure to already make a note to not miss it for next year in Rotterdam. It is one of my all-time favorite events of the year, and I highly recommend that you check it out. So without further ado, I want to travel north today to another episode in the Nordics, this time with Finland. So we have two guests today from the city of Helsinki who bring in their unique knowledge and backgrounds. Let me introduce you to them. So first off, we have Kaisa-Reetta Koskinen, the head of climate at the city of Helsinki, Finland. Welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you. And with her today, her counterpart, Susa Eräranta, Project Director for Climate Mitigation, City of Helsinki, and the Professor of Practice at Aalto University. Welcome, Susa.
Thank you.
Glad to have you both here. And I'm really excited to learn more about everything Helsinki is doing and all of your different ways of thinking. So first, I would like to start us off, warming us up. I should say cooling us down because it's like 30-something degrees here in Stuttgart. It's a heat wave. So let's call it a cool down for now. But could you tell us maybe little known facts about Helsinki? Do you have anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the things that people usually don't know about Helsinki is that most of it is actually sea. So 2/3 of Helsinki is actually sea and only 1/3 of it is land.
Ah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually Helsinki Metro is the northmost metro in the world. So we are very proud of that.
Oh.
You know, if you want to try a very north kind of experience, you can come and visit Helsinki and take a metro ride.
I would love to also. I've never been actually, so I hope to visit you soon, sometime soon. So Kaisa-Reetta, can you tell me a bit about your background and your story? What led you to your position today, and what are you most passionate about?
Yeah, I'm a physicist on my background. And I've been always very interested about the numbers and also environmental things. I graduated a little bit more than 20 years ago, and I went to work for a Finnish telecom company called Nokia. And I was there about 10 years. And during those years, I got more and more into the environmental and energy things. The last years, while I was working in Nokia, I was in Brussels. And then I got that kind of a climate awakening, you could say. You know, I realized that this is something I really want to, to work for. And I came back to Finland. And after that, I have been working for the government of Finland and also an organization, environmental organization, Greenpeace. So I was working as an energy and climate campaigner for Greenpeace Nordic. And then about a little bit more than 4 years ago, I got a call from City of Helsinki and they asked me to come to work for them as during that time as a project director for a climate program. And, when somebody calls you from the biggest city of the Helsinki and asks you to come to lead the program, in that kind of situation.
No.
Yeah. you don't say no. So, and here we are. So 2 years ago, the climate unit was established. So before that, I was, working as a project director. But then 2 years ago, exactly almost 2 years ago today, so it was started. And now we are growing fast and then we are doing a lot of also, not the mitigation, but also adaptation in our unit. So that's the story.
That's the story.
20 years in a nutshell.
It's a cool background. I always love talking to people who have such a mixed background, and it's interesting to hear how they came about coming to this position today. So, Susa, I would like to ask you the same question. How did you come to your current role?
Yeah, it has also been a lengthy part, like Kaisa-Reeta. So I'm originally an architect and an urban planner, and I have worked quite many years for diverse scales of urban planning in municipalities, mostly in the Helsinki region. And then during those years, I somehow realized that maybe we are not yet doing our best with the climate issues, for example. So maybe 2 years ago, I changed to the Helsinki region level to head the climate and circular economy operations. And then 1 year ago, Kaisa-Reeta had a really interesting post open at the city of Helsinki to work in the climate unit. And I decided that that's like really hands-on job with the climate task. So I decided to come back to the city of Helsinki and now work with the climate issues. And also simultaneously, I'm working in the academia. So I'm also trying to teach the future generations of planners to also acknowledge these planetary issues and climate issues as well.
Cool. And how do those two roles actually interact? The professor role and your role at Helsinki?
I think they interact actually quite well, because also this work that I'm doing in Kaisa-Reeta's unit is quite academically founded. I would say that we are doing really much methodological development and also collaborating with scientists and so on. So it's also good to, in a way, speak their language and understand how to actually bring those more theoretical thoughts into practice.
Yeah, and I think that it's also another way around, because, Susa now have a very concrete and hands-on experience that what are the challenges in the city. So if you are only working on the academia, I think that it could be very easily happen that you get quite far from the real life, so to say, real life problems. Yeah. So I think that it's win-win situation, basically.
Yeah, I imagine those feeding into each other quite well. So yeah, absolutely. So can you both set the scene a little bit on what is happening in Helsinki right now? What makes the situation unique in Helsinki? What challenges are shared with other cities? Maybe Kaisa-Reeta first?
Yeah. The big picture is that the biggest part of emissions are coming from heating. Mm-hmm. It's more than 60% at the moment. We have an energy company which is fully owned by the city, but it's a limited company. So we have a limited ways to force them to do things, because it's working on the market. Then, the second biggest part of the emission is coming from the traffic. It's about the 25% at the moment. And the rest is electricity and everything else. And everything else and the electricity part, they are not the problem for us. The electricity is getting clean on the Nordic market very fast. But really the traffic and the heating, they are the biggest headache. But what makes the situation unique, is that we have a very strong mandate from our leaders. The climate change target, or the climate emission reduction target, is included on the city strategy. The climate is one of our 4 that kind of, main project at the moment. We have a mayor leading the program group. City manager is leading or chairing the operational group. We really have this kind of very good situation from that perspective, that there is a mandate to do and to implement things. It's and I think that's something we really should be very grateful.
Yeah, enabling.
Enabling, yeah. And the city of Helsinki is doing quite well, from economical perspective. So we are doing profit. So it also gives us some freedom. So it's easier to make needed investments and things like that. So that's the big picture in short.
Yeah. Anything to add there, Susa, or she covered it?
I think she covered it mostly. Maybe just one key issue that maybe differs Helsinki a bit from the others is this very strong focus on the effectiveness of climate work. So we have really worked to kind of re-establish the climate program, for example. So it's more target oriented and especially focusing on the most effective actions. And that's in a way quite unique. I haven't seen that approach very explicitly elsewhere.
Yeah. Can you maybe put that a little bit clearer for the listeners? What does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, the first climate program we had about 5 years ago, it had 147 different actions. And the actions were really small scale, if you could say so. So there were, things that we should, increase the number of the pallet pallet agriculture on the city, and we should, promote commuting to your workplace by bike. There were that kind of very, very weak access. And we realized that, it's not going to work. So with this kind of very small actions, we are not going to reach our target. All the big actions, like, which were really reducing emissions were missing. And now we, put all the small actions on the side. So we are saying that, not every action is needed. Because we very easily in this climate bubble, we are repeating and just saying that every small action counts and everything is important. And we are saying, no, everything is not important. The big things at this point of the climate change, they are important. And we are focusing on those. And how they differ from the earlier version of the program is that they are very engineering kind of, actions. They are not sexy. They are not very easy to understand. They are actually quite boring ones. It's like that, you have to add insulation on the houses. You have to change to the geothermal. You have to increase number of the solar PVs. You have to use a low carbon concrete. They are that kind of, very engineering kind of, actions. But they are the actions we are doing the mile. They are the actions we are really reducing emissions. And everything else is just that kind of, funny things we could do, but they are not going to save us. And that's how it really differs. And we are calculating a lot. As I said, I'm a person who loves numbers. So we calculated, on daily basis, we are trying to really estimate that how much every action is reducing emissions. What is the cost? How fast emission reduction is going to come, and it's very that kind of, as Susa said, science based.
Yeah,
that kind of thinking is behind everything we do.
Yeah.
But of course, it looks very, very different comparing to the first version of the program.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And I guess those measures could be sexy to some, though, right? They're like sexy to the engineers and sexy to you.
There are other people. But, for example, I was super excited because, we decided that, in every infrastructure construction, in Helsinki, we are going to use a low carbon concrete. And I was super excited about it. And now I have found one person, who is also excited about it. And I was like, okay, this is the celebration.
I can get excited about that. I can be your third person to get excited about it too.
But it's they are not that kind of, obvious one, because, people very easily, they think that, the climate change mitigation is about the green roofs, or it's about that kind of, putting that kind of recycling shelves on your house and things like that. But they are really not that kind of things which are making a big effects. Mm-hmm. They are nice to have things, but, if we are only focusing on those and we are not doing the big ones, we are going to lose this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Susa, you want to add there?
Yeah, I would maybe say that we are now focusing on, in a way, making the frame of urban life more climate friendly in a way, so that it's not up to the individuals only to make the changes in their lives, but also the city is taking the responsibility of changing the issues that the city can, in a way, change.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you saying that do you not focus on, I guess, behavior change and stuff in citizens? Is that not a focus of yours, or are you still focusing on that?
We are focusing on that, but, not traditional way.
Mhm.
Because, I think that the traditional way to try to change behavior is through education and through information. And we don't do that.
Mhm.
But we are, for example, trying to make people to be more active on their daily life, choosing more climate friendly ways of transport, for example. But we are doing it by, making biking and walking infrastructure better. And we are trying to, because, one of my friend who is working on the physical activity program always said that the human being is like a water, that he or she is always trying to choose the easiest way.
Yes.
And we are very lazy, and we don't want to make that kind of extra effort. And that's only way we are able to make the people to make right choices is to make those right choices very easy for them. And this is what we are trying to do. This is really, we are trying to change the behavior, but not the traditional way.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. Actually, I talk about that a lot, about how people will just choose the thing that's easiest for them, and that's the most convenient. Convenience trumps almost everything in how people function. You can choose, even if you show people two routes where this has cleaner air and this has dirtier air. If that takes 10 minutes longer, they will choose the dirtier air most of the time, I think.
Yeah, and I will do the same.
Yeah, exactly. We can't blame anyone, right?
Yeah, because
we're busy. We would choose the most convenient thing.
Yeah, and
I
I think we have been sharing information about the climate change and that kind of environmental friendly choices already like 20 years at least.
Mhm.
And, not much has changed. So I think we have tried it already. And, it does not work. We have to try something else.
And I think like lately we have also made these calculations of how big actually is the impact of these individual actions. And I think Kaisa-Reetta can share some really kind of interesting examples of how low the impact actually is, even if all of the Helsinki residents would do some of those things.
Yeah, because I already told I love numbers and I love calculations. So we calculated. It was that kind of, a finger exercise at the beginning. That's kind of, inside joke a little bit. We, created that kind of imaginary friend called Pekka. And then we calculated that if Pekka is going to reduce the temperature of his own, apartment by 3 degrees and reduce shower, like 25%. So he's going to take, shorter showers and switch off the lights he is not needing. The carbon footprint of Pekka is going to be reduced by 2.88%. So, and if we think that that kind of sustainable level is that you have to reduce your carbon footprint like 80 or 90%. So it's quite far. It's very, very far. It's less than 3%. And if every resident in Helsinki is going to do the same, so everyone, and we know that, not everybody is going to do the same, the effect for the city's emission is 0.5%. So we don't think about this kind of things. So the numbers, they are very, very low.
Yeah. And so how do we balance? Okay, so does that mean no one is responsible? Like, can we not hold anyone responsible then for your own personal actions, or are you just focusing the actions on the systematic changes and hoping that draws the people to behavioral change?
It's a little bit both. But do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think the main issue now is to make the systemic change so that the city, in a way, itself also lays the foundation for sustainable life, so that not so much is dependent on whether an individual acts sustainably or not, but that the city makes it more easier to do those sustainable actions.
Yeah, and at some point of the process, we also need individuals, but the individuals needs to do right actions and not concentrating and not use all their energy on that kind of small things which change close to nothing. But for example, we as I said, heating is a big part of emissions in Helsinki. And we started a couple of years ago that kind of energy renaissance program in Helsinki. And it's basically, the idea is that we hired engineers working for the city, and they are helping housing associations to make energy renovations, because we found out that the energy renovations, they are very difficult for normal lay people who are normally running housing associations in Finland. And so at that point, we did a marketing campaign. We said that, okay, do the biggest climate action of the year. Now we need your help and you need to act. And the act we asked them to ask was to go to the housing association meeting and propose that we should study, if there is a room for an energy renovation in our housing association. And then, we were, as a city, we were able to send the engineers to help the housing associations. And for example, by doing this, you could reduce 60 or 70% of the energy consumption of the whole housing association, instead of focusing on your own single apartment in the house. And the effect is like, it's 100 times bigger. So I think that, it's a little bit, as an old NGO person, and, have been working also on that side, it's, we should look on the mirror also, because, we are, as an NGO workers, we are promoting very much on those small individual things. And we are not telling people that what they really should do. Of course, everybody is speaking about the voting, but, outside of that, we just, we're speaking about the plastic bags and soda showers, and we don't give people the right tools to act, because at least I think that there are many people who really want to do more.
Yeah.
But they just, there is not that kind of, knowledge, what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kaiserita, you're the numbers person. As Susa, what do you like to focus on?
I think currently I'm focusing very much on these future study methods, maybe because the carbon neutrality target that we have now been mostly talking about is not the only target that Helsinki has set. It's the first and maybe the easiest target on a way to mitigation. But actually, after carbon neutrality, we have also set a target for carbon zero and even carbon negativity. And if we consider the carbon negativity target, which is more about these regenerative cities, maybe, so it's going to be a very different kind of a future. And now that we have been trying to concretize what it would actually mean, we have had some issues, because it seems that in a way, the willingness to imagine this kind of different futures is quite limited. And we should need some new methods maybe to somehow encourage this imagination of thinking about good life in a carbon negative city, because now we are mainly focusing on issues which we need to give up on to reduce the emissions. But we actually believe that the carbon negative city could also bring many new good features with it. And we would somehow like to encourage this imaginatory journey towards a carbon negative city also for the others, but it hasn't been too easy yet.
Yeah, it's like people are like, okay, one step at a time. Let's get to carbon neutrality first, and then we can go into. But I love that you're thinking that step ahead. Can you show us a little bit? What does that look like for you? What are some of those? Of course, it doesn't have to be based on science. I'm just asking for a little bit of your imagination. Like, what do you believe that would look like? What would be the benefits there?
Yeah, well, we think that in a carbon negative city, for example, this active mobility that Kaisa-Reetta was already before referring to should play a more bigger role than now, for example. And maybe also the services should be more local, that you would find some of the basic services already in your neighborhood and wouldn't need to travel around the region to find those basic services. And I would also say that it would mean that we also adapt to the climate change, because changes are going to happen even if we would be carbon negative today. So maybe also having more unpaved ground in the city, for example, and maybe even more greenery, and also aspects of this more passive resilience in a way, so that, many kind of things which I think would also improve the individual level health and also the planetary well-being as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think is like the biggest lesson that you want your students when you're teaching them to take away with them about these topics?
Yeah. I think that the one main lesson that I'm trying to give them is that there are no right or wrong answers at this point. But the main issue that they should learn there and that we should also learn in practice is critical thinking, of actually thinking about are these actions that we are doing actually taking us towards these targets? Because usually we utilize many of these planetary targets, whether they are about climate or biodiversity or anything else, we are just utilizing them mostly for branding, I would say, in many cities. And still the concretization of those and actually reaching the targets, it's still like long way ahead. So also encouraging them to think critically about the existing practices and methods and tools that are utilized of what is the data actually telling us and where are the tools actually leading us to, because they might already have these some of built-in features that are taking us to a very different future than the aims that we have actually set.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also this greenwashing that happens within cities too, right? We usually think of this that companies are doing this, but actually cities do this too. So, Kaiserita, I love your stories about what's happening in Helsinki about some of these measures. What do you have any other use cases or best practices to share with the listeners on what Helsinki is doing that are the most effective measures?
Yeah, I think that we are forerunner on the building construction. And so since day one, we started to think about also, the scale. As Susa said, we have to think about, how far we are able to get with these actions. And then we decided that, we don't have time for piloting anymore. So we have to, go all in. And we have, for example, a set requirement for the energy efficiency of the building. It's not only for the building city owns, but through city planning regulation, we have set energy efficiency requirements for all the buildings which are going to build to the city. And actually yesterday evening, so it's straight from the press. So city council decided that in future we are going to start require a certain carbon footprint for the buildings. And that's other, because it's every single building which is going to be built. So those are the effective ways. And they are also, this is like a hint for the other cities, they are very cheap, because it's just, changing the regulation. It does not cost anything for us. It's just that we say that, if you want to have a plot, if you want to build something here, you have to fulfill these requirements. We are using a low concrete infrastructure, a low carbon infrastructure concrete. We are investing a lot on the biking infrastructure, because we think that the infra are the three important things, to increase biking share. We are building a lot public rail transport at the moment. What else? We have this team of wonderful engineers helping the private households to do their part. What else? Am I missing something? We have, and the geothermal, my love. We have done a lot on the geothermal to trying to make it easier. So for example, 1 year ago, we decided that, if you are not able to get enough energy on your own from your own plot, you are able to put your energy wells on the city land. So if there is a road or a park nearby, so you can use the city property to get enough geothermal. We are reducing the permit bills and things like that. So Susa, did I forget something?
No, I think those are the concrete actions, but I also think that what we need in many cities is this change in the way of thinking about this scale. I really much like whether it was Kaisereta or somebody else who utilized this metaphor that if we should get to the moon tomorrow, it's not enough if we get to the neighboring kind of locations, in a way that we should actually think about what are the actions that are going to take us far enough with the target that we have set, in a way. So I think this is something, this calculation and also understanding of scales and understanding of the numbers and measures and so on. That's in a way the main issue with these mitigation targets in the near future, because all of the cities have scarce resources, all of the cities have limited time. So in a way, there is no time or resources also to waste on these actions which are not actually leading us closer to those targets.
I always like to say that it's not about not having time. And I think it's the same about resources. It's just about prioritization. And I think that's really what you are doing, is prioritizing what really matters, right?
Exactly. We are concentrating on what we must and should do instead of, what we could do.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a big difference between these two.
Yeah.
But I understand it's very easy to focus on those easy, nice, happy, shiny actions because no one is opposing them. And, they are very easy to implement and to get approved. But, when you are really having these kind of big things, there is always somebody, opposing, and it's always like a big fight. So it requires a little bit stamina to you have to be a person that nobody can say no.
You're one of those people, huh?
I am.
Yes, I can tell. Susan's looking like, yeah. Yes, love it. So actually, Kaiserreto, you actually told me before this that you're going to be part of Urban Future's Fuck Up Night.
I will. And I'm super excited.
Yes, I'm excited to hear you too. I'm very excited. And I actually wanted to ask you about, I don't know if you want to call it a mistake. We like to call it the biggest lesson learned. But I know that also in Helsinki, you want to fail fast. And that's your motto. So can you tell me about some of those times where you failed fast?
I think that it was actually Susa who did this. And this is like, I'm a very good loser. So I'm, queen of embarrassment. I do stupid things every day and,
Same.
I'm like, okay. But, the moment I really felt ashamed, I was really feeling bad, was when Susa did that kind of analyzing of the actions we had on the first program. And I knew that, they were not the best actions and they were quite weak. But Susa did that kind of made a method to evaluate the actions. And only 5 action out of 147 was action which was really reducing emissions. And so at that point, I was like, I was almost losing my good spirit. And that does not happen very often. But it was really that kind of, I felt the same. And that was, immediately when I saw the first idea, I had was that, let's do not show these numbers to anybody. But the second idea is that, we should use this method, in future. And at the moment we are every action we put in our program, we are putting on the table and the categories, and we are seeing that, if it's really that kind of effective or not.
Yeah, and actually we have compiled this guidebook about all of the mistakes or the lessons learned and what we learned about those. So it's also available online. So if anybody wants to check, there are all of the lessons learned with some explanation of how we think we might do it better in some other way.
Oh, good. Yeah, we will try to link to that in the show notes too for people to check out. Thank you so much for sharing that as well. I know the first reaction, of course, we're all human, right? Is to say, push this in a closet. No one has to see this. This is shameful. But it really is this different way of thinking that you're putting out on the table. So I really appreciate that. That's wonderful. So, Susa, did you have something to add? No. Okay. Good. I always like to give you all also the option of an open floor now. I know we've talked a lot about different actions that you're doing, some about the numbers and effectiveness, but is there anything else that we missed that you really want people to know today?
Well, I can start maybe with the more long-term goals, that simultaneously that we are thinking about this carbon neutrality and so on, we should make sure that we don't make any lock-ins for, in a way, locking the emissions to a specific level, for example. But we should keep in mind that it's not enough to get the emissions to zero, for example, but we should get those below zero in a way to also decrease the carbon from the atmosphere. So in a way, also to leave the room open for the regenerative futures, and also start to think about those futures, because they are not maybe decades away. They are quite nearby, and now we don't have very much concrete ideas of how those might be actually made.
Yeah, and I would like to challenge all the other cities to do this kind of, critical evaluation of their work, because, when we did it, it was painful. It was not the, walk in the park. It was shameful, at certain points, but it was really, really helpful. And I think that, next time we are going to fail better, at least. But it's because in this climate bubble, and I count myself in, we have that kind of, darlings we really should kill, or at least we should, really, evaluate if they are valid, claims anymore. Like, every action is important and every action counts, or that, everybody has to participate to creating this kind of plans. And, we really should, we have used those kind of, beliefs like 20 years or at least 10 years. But, we are not getting very far. So I think that we really should evaluate and see, be that kind of honest and, true to ourselves, at least, that is this really the way we should go forward? And that's the challenge I really would like to draw to the other cities, that, and we are failing, and we are telling everybody, I'm going to, embarrass myself tomorrow evening on the city fuck up night and tell everything we have done wrong. And so it's that's the way how we are able to learn. And I think that, everybody should change to join this failing fast team, and to share their learnings, because it does not make sense that everybody is making the same mistakes and inventing the wheel on their own. So I think that, not only, telling what was the success, but also, telling that what does not work, that do not try this, it does not work, we already did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. So now that's you're done with the main interview part. Now we just get to play a little game. And so this is one of my favorite segments that we do. It's called Roll with the Punches. Roll with the punches. Answer this or that questions quickly and with your first instincts. So there are some silly ones, some more serious, but basically they're meant to get a conversation going about some of these. So Susa, you will answer first, and Kaisareta, you will answer directly after her. And we'll go through them quickly. And then at the end, if you want to explain any of your answers, you can, okay? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ready as you'll ever be, right? All right. Shared vehicles or electric vehicles?
Shared vehicles.
Same.
Spring or autumn in Helsinki?
Spring.
Same.
No, you have to disagree. No. Effectiveness or data?
Effectiveness.
This is a difficult one. Effectiveness. But data is also important.
Behavioral change or technological innovation?
Behavioral change.
Technological innovations.
Energy renovations or public transport planning?
That's hard.
Both.
Energy renovation, maybe.
Both.
You can't pick both.
I
You have
can't
to
pick
choose.
You should take the other one so we can have both.
But yeah, I have to say energy renovations also.
Local initiatives or collaborating with international organizations? You should, because the podcast listeners can't see your face, I think we have to. She is in like a turmoil inside on this one.
Yeah. I would ask why. But if either, then maybe the international
organizations.
I would go on the local.
Look, wind power or solar power?
Wind power.
Wind, definitely.
Podcasts or audiobooks?
Podcast.
Audiobooks. No, you have to leave now. No. Just kidding.
Wrong answer.
There are some wrong answers, you know. Climate education in schools or public awareness campaigns?
Climate education in schools.
Same.
Okay. Yay. Good job. Good job. There was a few tricky ones in there.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about them and explain any of your answers? We had the effectiveness or data that put you in turmoil. Kaiserita.
Yeah, it's because I think that we need both. We need a data to make that kind of,
Data comes first, and then you choose what's effective.
Yeah, but it's in many cases we think that we need a lot of data.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, in our first program, we had 280 different indicators. And most of them we could not, update because we didn't have data. And that those were not needed. If you have, one goal to be carbon neutral and reduce emissions, then you probably need a couple of, indicators to see if you are going on the right direction. But I think that we need, a certain amount of data to be effective, but not, too much.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because we can very easily waste a lot of time just to collect data, and it's away from the other things we can do.
Yeah, I agree. We are currently very much focusing on producing data on anything that comes to mind and also developing methods for analyzing that data. But I think that what we lack most is not the data, but actually the willingness and the attitude to change the things towards the more effective actions.
Yeah, makes sense. You also disagreed on behavioral change and technological innovation. Do you want to explain your different viewpoints? It's probably similar, but
I think my main focus was that we could actually solve these issues already now without having more innovations. It comes back to this willingness and this attitude. So in a way, it's about the behavioral change of also all of us to make these things happen and not just think that we need many more innovations so that any of these could be possible.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So maybe it's a technology without innovation, because I think that we don't really need new innovations at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We have a technology we need.
We have most of the technology.
Yeah, we have.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I have probably a little bit lost my belief in human beings and how they are able to change their behavior. So I don't want to count on that.
Yeah.
Because I really think that we have to find other ways to solve this problem, because we're running out of time.
Yes. Time is ticking. Yeah. Good. I will leave it at that. I think the other ones are pretty clear. Unless you have something else to argue about. Any contradictory points. Okay. Then we just have one last question, and it's a question that I ask every single guest. And it's to you: what is a smart city? Whoever wants to go first.
For me, smart city is city which functions well. So I don't. Many people think that the smart is something about the digitalization or things like that. But for me, it's not like that. It's a city which operates and functions well.
Yes,
even
absolutely.
if the solutions are stupid or smart, but if it works well, it's fine for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Susa?
Yeah, I think a smart city is a one which respects life in all of its all forms. So in a way, the one that balances the planetary livability with the human livability and doesn't just prioritize the human livability over everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. So with that, we made it through. It's very hot. So we did really well considering the heat. So huge thank you also to Urban Future Conference in facilitating all these great episodes and all the learnings and interactions. And thank you really to both of you today for coming and speaking to me. I think you had really amazing insights to share with so many other cities. So hopefully we can keep failing faster together. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And to all of our listeners, don't forget you can always create a free account on babel-smartcities.eu. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for listening. I'll see you at the next stop on the journey to a better urban life.